Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Into the MoTaverse. Today I have Kim Knup with us. She has been a long time community member and also a friend, I would say, over the years. She's local to Brighton, and we were just discussing before we jumped on the call, trying to think about how long she's been around, but it's been around. It's been a good few years. We think it's been about 10 years since she first started getting involved. And yeah, over the years, we've been in touch. She's attended a whole bunch of events. She's been a speaker. She's helped run community meetups as well. Yeah, all sorts, right? Going around, as the world is changing, has changed. She's just been around. And I just thought it'd be fun to catch up because her career has changed a bit as well, and I think it's quite interesting to explore how careers change, and how we can choose to go on different paths, but still have our roots with us and have the communities and people that we've been a part of. We should still keep in touch and learn from one another. And yeah, I'll hand it over to Kim to give a little intro. Hello, Kim, and welcome.
Hello. Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a bit always interesting and fun to reflect on where you've come from when you first met. I guess we just said it was about 10 years or so ago, and I remember I just started to really get into testing. I'd come from a localization tester role and moved into functional testing, and I was just moving into building my first team, being the first tester in a startup, and really looked for what is out there. Knew all the developers had conferences and communities, but I didn't really know much about testing, and I actually found Rosie on Meetup. And I remember we went to this pub and it was a handful of us, and most of them were developers, actually, I think. And we had fish and chips and just talking, and you'd brought the newspaper that you used to have. And then through that, I met Anya and Emma Keaveney, who's probably people also might know. And Anya obviously used to work for MOT as well. And I remember you just one day went, well, if you want this to be a thing, why don't you three just get together and make a community meetup? And I was like, oh, is it really like that? Let's get a few people do it. And yeah, ever since we've sort of stayed in touch. Then Test Bash came, so that was a big thing to meet local people from all over the world in a nice setting. I'd attended a couple of bigger conferences by then, but I mean, it was so faceless, whereas this was a proper community thing. I've made friends there. Like we just said, we're friends. Emma is a dear friend that I just met through Test Bash. I remember her doing her 99-second talk, and I was like, that one I need to speak to. So yeah, it's been a bit of a ride, I would say, but all people based, and I think I really believe into that it's all about people and connections. It's not about showing off your next big tech thing. It's actually about being kind to each other and learning from each other, and making time for each other. So yeah, I guess I started off as a localization tester, as I just said, moved on to more functional manual testing of systems. I've gone in and out of different industries, and seen lots of different ways of delivering software in that process. Some are more regulated, some areas were more startup, a bit more free, a bit more greenfield. But in the end, for the last sort of 8 years, I've ended up in financial services, a very regulated environment, locally at Legal & General here in Brighton and Hove. And I've had sort of senior roles there, but also been a bit of a product owner and done some Scrum Mastering, and then most recently gone into DevRel management. So it's just me. There isn't a team at the moment. So it's the first time we're giving this a go, based on kind of communities of practice. So I've helped run a community of practice internally for many years. And from that, we kind of spun out the idea of someone that is more involved with the communities, helps the teams kind of bridge some gaps, because it's a very complicated, big corporate business, and people don't make time necessarily, not consciously, but they don't necessarily make time to connect, even though a lot of the time we're building very similar things. We've got very similar challenges. And through the communities of practice, we're trying to kind of get rid of those boundaries, work together better and learn from each other. So that's been quite fun last year, and then has led to this like new role, which will also look at more traditional DevRel elements of like selling internal platforms and making our platforms more consistent, making the way work flows more consistent, so that the company works in a one standardized way where applicable, I guess. And I'll help promote that, and I'll help onboard people to that, which will be interesting because it's a bit of a sales job maybe here and there too. And maybe I shouldn't say this, but like one of the feedbacks I had when I was a sales manager many, many years ago is that no one wants to buy from me. They just want to give me a hug. So we'll see. I mean, this is internal, so it would be easier to kind of show people what it's all about and solve people's problems. Hopefully our platform will solve people's problems internally, and that way it's a lot easier to bring people on a journey rather than like hard sales. But that element did scare me initially.
When you say our platform, what do you mean by our platform?
So we're building more of a like how we work platform, so interconnected with different systems. So our day-to-day work, our like sprint work, then our like the way incidents come in, so that they actually end up on that board, because of course we use different systems for everything, and have a better overview of like how the work is happening and how it's flowing through the process. So I know there's lots of like plugin tools. So if you use like Jira, there's and I've instantly forgotten what it's called, but all the like metrics about sprint reporting that you can look at that are built into that. But actually we need to pull in other information like the incidents, the feature requests, like how do we visualize that better to help people work more efficiently. And then it goes all the way down to like where the code base lives, how we work there, our pipelines, that they're consistent, standardized. And also we have a big opportunity around like, or not auditing, but like to fulfill those requirements more, sorry, stuttering now, the requirements of like the audit process, to make that more visual, that we are fulfilling them. That's really around. I have a better way of saying that, but basically that it's happening automatically in the pipeline. We can show that regression tests are happening. We can show that dependency analysis is happening, and that's all okay before code goes to production. But we don't have a nice dashboard. If an auditor comes to say, what are you doing? We don't have a nice dashboard to like say, well, these are all the requirements. Here's how they're met. This is what it looks like when they fail. But that's a big opportunity that we've got, that we can make better in our platform. And that way, that should be a big selling point for other teams to adopt it, I guess.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking like, when someone says DevRel to me, my brain automatically goes to like external DevRel,
yes.
like, getting out there, educating your customers, going to conferences or speaking at conferences, or all that kind of stuff. But it feels like your DevRel is a bit different, a bit internal DevRel.
Yes.
Is that the right understanding, or how would you describe what your role is? Or
so it's definitely more internal focused. So one big part is the communities of practice and connecting people. And from that, I might hear around issues, problems people have, how they've solved them, and then like share those, have a newsletter, actually broadcast it, because we're so bad at showing what good work we've done historically for reasons. But, in the tech world, just show like, this is really cool what we've done. If you also want to do this, if you have a similar problem, come speak to these people. We can help you solve the same thing. So there's a big opportunity there. So that's around the communities and connecting people across the business. And then the other part is the platform that my department owns and helping onboard new internal customers as such. And that might sound a bit silly, but, with a big corporate company, you have different ways of working, you've got different systems, and, there's always things around standardization, making things simpler. And, we're on a big journey of doing that internally. So that's where this role will be helpful, helping do demos, helping write maybe a bit of technical documentation, which is something I did many years ago. And also communication, just like show people what there is so they don't have to think of their own platform. And making that all visible, making the work visible, making the platform visible, and then finding people's problems and how the platform might solve them. So it's a bit of like a mix of a bit of an internal product owner-ish, or a scout. I might be more of a scout that goes out and feeds it back to the individual product owners that work on this connected platform. But it's early days on how exactly that looks. But there's a big change, and it's exciting. I like change.
Yeah.
Being testers, we love change, right? Gives us something to do, something to learn. So I hope I haven't missold the role when my boss listens to it. But
how would you say that the role came about? Because you said you're the only one doing it at the moment. It's the first role, so it's like who decided that needed to be a thing?
From what I gather, it's been an idea for several years, with a goal of connecting people, making things simpler. That's sort of the two big things. And funnily enough, they're also goals of the wider world that I live in at the moment. And there's always been value or perceived value in communities, but never a real push for showing that and highlighting it or investing in it properly. So, you've worked with communities and you often hear oh, I don't have time, or those things. So we're trying to actually invest in it and make it okay to give time to community in communities of practice. So that's part of it, to visualize those and say it's okay, look, you even have someone that helps you connect, or if you have an idea of how to, if you 3-4 people and you really want to get together about in a community of practice way, reach out to me. I'll help you set it up. I've got my guidelines. I've got a playbook, and that way people feel less oh, I've created a Teams channel and now what? So I'm trying to give some actionable steps, some ideas, or, just even being a facilitator, having a chat like this, or a lean coffee session. I often go around running lean coffees for everyone, because that's a nice, easy way to hear people's voices and see people's ideas and questions. So I think there's always been that want. And then due to, those scary words of transformation and change, there's a whole new world around platform engineering, I would say. I mean, it's not brand new, but it's more focused, I would say. And we have tricky products or tricky ways of working with them in places. We're trying to make it simpler, but having someone that can help sell the products, help guide people, just take away the fear of the change, the fear of the new a little bit. That's kind of what I'm aiming to do. Be like a friendly face to help you use the tool and get the most out of it. Also understand like where it doesn't fit someone's needs and where it does, and feed that back.
Yeah. When you say platform engineering, how would you describe that whole new world? What does it mean to you? And I guess also maybe like from the perspective of quality, if we're going to tie it back into quality and testing, what kind of things are you seeing that relate it back to quality and testing, or what should we be thinking about in terms of our roles and ensuring that good products get shipped, essentially?
Yeah, this is a tough question because I've, like all cards on the table, I've struggled with the platform engineering model. Let's like be honest, and like there's different ways I think of approaching it, and there's the book Team Topologies that has just had a new version out as well. I haven't read the revised version yet, which talks about, your platform teams, your enablement teams, your value stream teams that kind of go, vertically through those and use bits to deliver their like work. I've not seen it like 100% in practice. I've seen ambitions around it. I think a platform at the end of the day is still a product with customers, and it should still consider who's going to use it and why would they use it. And that sometimes maybe gets missed because you kind of feel like, I'm building this awesome thing, and then you don't speak to anyone because you haven't called it a product. It's a weird mental block. At least that's kind of how I've seen it. But in that sense, one tricky bit with platforms is, knowing all your customers, and all your customers might have very different use cases for your platform, depending on how big it is at the end of the day. So me looking at, how work flows and goes, all the way through kind of almost like a ticketing life cycle up into like production with, release notes at the end of it. What does that look like for each product? What's important for each product that uses that platform? Are we all working Kanban? Are we all Scrum? Even like those little differences could change that. The reporting that comes out of the platform, like who are we reporting to and why? That's also important. Like, what do we want to know as like the platform owners, but what do our customers want to know, and what do they need to present from that? So it's very much going back to basics around personas and use cases, I would say, and like story mapping. Having that solid understanding can really help you with your testing, your quality engineering activities that you'll have to do around this. Now, a lot of my stuff will be internal and it won't ever go to production. It will enable stuff to go to production. So from that perspective, I have different like kind of regulatory requirements to consider than something that goes to production. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't add the same vigor to my testing and looking at it the same way, because production is still everyone else using it, even though it's not like live to external people. So I think that's a mistake I've seen in the past. Like, well, it's an internal tool, but if we break the pipeline, everyone is down. Like, we've stopped everyone working, and that's maybe even worse than like a small bug in production when that's someone just self-serving, getting some information. So yeah, it's kind of slightly different way of thinking about it, I think, and just treating it the same as if it is going out to the wider world.
I like what you said about just how the information flows, or how work flows. I think you mentioned.
Yes.
And I think, obviously I can reflect on our own example at MOT, very, very different from legal in general, big company and, regulated. But I guess like from a platform perspective, we have been going through this idea of like simplifying stuff. Like everything
Hmm.
was too complex. So the world is
Yes.
changing. I think previously it was easy to say, "Oh, we're running a conference, so we need a tool to sell tickets." So what's a tool that's out there that sells tickets? And then you just keep reusing that tool, and then like literally like 10 years later, you're still using it, and it feels easy because it's what you're used to, but actually
Yes.
it, it's not the right tool for what you need. But at the same time, it takes the effort to move away from that.
Yes.
Um,
And I
so
guess that's
that's
partially, yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
Go
That's
on.
partially like what I am now there for, to help reduce that effort a little bit of the moving,
Yeah,
making it smoother, and supporting that, and taking any like gripes from people or issue or real issues. A lot of the time someone might just not like the way something is called. Okay, we just is it really a misunderstanding, or is it a wording, or in code you get around with like camel case and all of those things, and then maybe someone wants that applied to their dashboard. Well, maybe that's not quite the right thing. But yeah, kind of filtering the noise from the real issues, and that support element is kind of what I'm trying to
yeah,
achieve in the next few months.
yeah. It's a lot though, right? Because as you say, like how work flows, it's like it's
Mm,
almost overwhelming of like all the pieces you have to think about and or be able to work with or be able to understand. And
mm,
we've definitely like discovered from trying to integrate as much as we can into our platform. So we got rid of our ticketing system, no longer using an external one. It's all tied
mhm.
into the platform. We're currently in the process of getting rid of meetup.com. It's been on the cards for ages, but it's happening finally now. Um, but by having all these different tools, the big reason why we're moving away from them is because they don't provide the visibility that we actually need of the data.
Yeah. Mhm.
So people register and you don't actually see it unless you intentionally go and look it out.
Mhm.
So now it's like, no, people register and you can see them register, or adds it to their MOT profile, or they earn a star for it and it increases a star count, stuff like that. But it's complex, right? It's like, it's
Mm,
like it's one thing after another, but like literally just like the adding a meetup now is so easy, right? Whereas before it was like I wasn't aware when a meetup would be added, or I'd have to check my email,
yes.
which I had filtered into a folder, and I'd have to check if there were any new meetups as a way to remind me. And then if there were new meetups, then I'd have to manually go and add them to the website after a member had already added them to meetup.com and stuff like that. And it was just like,
Yes.
oh my God, I can't do this anymore. Um, but it still takes a while to like prioritize that and find the
Yes.
time to move away from it, fix all the bugs that appear as we go along. Um,
Mm,
but I guess it's like I almost immediately see the value of it, right?
yeah.
And I have my community hat on, I have my quality hat on as well. I
Yeah.
have my CEO hat on, all the things. Um, but I guess like when you were talking about it, I was thinking of like quality is care is like a phrase that I
Yes.
use.
Hmm.
You're showing that, right? You're still like showing that care for trying to have the best quality system. You almost have that experience of the problems that can arise, but now it's almost like you're looking at it from a different perspective, and you are applying that care. Um, but then like also like community is care, and that's also a phrase
Hmm.
that I started using before quality is care, and that I've realized they're both kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
In community you have to care. You can't have community
Yes.
without care, and you can't, in my opinion, you can't have quality without care, without showing care for all these
Yeah.
intricate things that you need to be aware of. Um, so yeah, I just like as you were explaining it, basically, is that all these things that you have to do is like that's care, that's showing care, and that's
And I think that's
quality.
like I've seen quite a few people move into this sort of role, more like with products that are like internally facing. Um, and so it didn't feel like completely alien as like a career step to go into this sort of role as DevRel Manager. So, a lot of the time I've seen people go into automation and then coding and become developers internally, which I think is also really cool. Or more into like engineering managers, so looking more at kind of how tech fits together and then the people that work on it, which I think also makes sense because as testers we often have a big picture, but we're also able to dive deep down into the system, so we pick up loads of skills there that can be used. And then I see generally that there's also lots of communication skills being built up because we have to talk about our work. We have to, convince people that something is an issue, or at least discuss that something is an issue or not, and really understand why. So that's why I'm hoping this role will be like a good fit and a good thing to like leverage maybe more of the like softer skills I've acquired over the years, and like the analytical mindset, thinking about like how do we connect all of our things together to create a platform that delivers this work. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how
Yeah.
it kind of goes in the end. So yeah, maybe we need to have a catch up in December, see if I still have the same job. But no, I'm really excited for it because of the things you said. Caring can make a big difference in these sorts of roles. There's an element of account management in it where you want to care about the people that use your platform, and yeah, that bit I like and I have done in the past.
Yeah. How, so how does it work in legal in general? Like who do you report to, or who gets to judge your work, or who gets to guide your work? I guess who's
Well,
like giving it
so
structure, I guess.
actually, you spoke to him recently. So Chris Miles is my boss. Once again, we keep working together at different levels in the company, which has been nice. And that's been a nice bonus of working somewhere so big that you can kind of change role back and forth to an extent. I know people there that have worked there for 15, 20 years in all sorts of tech roles. So Chris Miles, who used to head up quality engineering, but now is more around kind of platform engineering, but also bigger things to do with our transformation and bits and pieces that he does. So we have regular check-ins because it's quite a new role and a new department that we're doing this for. So we tend to, what works well for me as an employee being managed is we have a Monday check-in, like what's our plan, what's our focus areas, and then we have a debrief on a Friday. And we can chat whenever we need to in between, and because he's in a different like leadership level, he might come across opportunities, names that he can feed back to me and say, oh, why don't you see if you can get involved here, or I know this person's doing a great thing, why don't you pair up on that? Or he makes the introductions for me. With it being so new, that's kind of how it's working. But generally on a day-to-day at the moment, I kind of set my own work, my own ideas. So I'm going into writing a lot, creating playbooks for the community element, but also thinking about what's the communication plan for the platform. Once we have things connected and we're selling in quotation marks, like our wins, our features, or we're looking for volunteers to try it out, how we're going to do that. So I'm working with kind of the stakeholders around that. And just understanding what all the different products are that we're building in to become a platform. So I've used a lot of them, but I've not tested them or worked on them because historically I've more worked on the end application that goes to the user, but not necessarily all the other elements. So yeah, for me, it's a big learning year,
Yeah.
learning products, learning like processes, dusting off my media and communications degree from, I won't say the year, dates me too much. So yeah,
what
there's lots of different threads that I can focus on, and I just like course correct if something else comes up.
what do you like think is perhaps the most frustrating part of the role? Because I know I've had many frustrations over the years. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think initially it's becoming visible and becoming kind of something that people think of, like, oh, we've done a cool thing, we should tell Kim so she can help us publicize it. Like, I'm not in people's minds as this role yet. Partially that's due to me and reaching out and having those relationships. So that's something that I need to work on. I need to do like more off with. I don't know the prepositions, and so that can be frustrating, like not getting the information in a timely manner to then
yeah,
help people. And then I think I always get this. It doesn't matter if I'm a senior tester, senior quality engineer in a new company or new team. I initially struggle with imposter syndrome a lot. So, over the years, you get strategies to try and combat that, which, is talking to people, doing a bit of research, or, thinking about maybe you might throw in a bit that you are comfortable with, like, oh, hi everyone, I can do a risk storming session if you're free. It's not necessarily my job, but it's something that I know adds value, and then I feel good again for a little bit. And it's getting that serotonin hit from like, yeah, you've done good work and so helped someone. Finding those opportunities to kind of balance the challenge with the bit that give me like, that kick off, like, this is great. But yeah, I think it's just the frustration is mostly like, okay, it's been announced. Why hasn't anyone adopted that I am the person to go to? But I
yeah,
have more work to do there because word doesn't spread fast where I am. I am there to help make it spread faster. So yeah, that's in my gift to change. But that is something that I sometimes struggle with. They're like, oh,
yeah,
why didn't they include me? Why didn't they send this to me? And it's never malicious, of course. It's just literally like, oh, we didn't know this was important for your role.
yeah.
So,
And I guess it's hard because it's like, I guess like the world is changing, and just like to communicate stuff, it's almost like you have to constantly change strategies, or people's attention span is increasingly harder to get to. It's like often like sometimes I feel bad that I keep repeating myself about things. It's like, like at MoTaCon back in October, like we announced that we were bundling stuff, but and we put out, we keep talking about it, and we put out news posts about it. We keep telling people about it. It's there in plain sight, especially if you know where to look on the website. If you
yeah,
sign up to a membership, it's all there, but people still don't know, and it's
yeah,
just like you kind of have to breathe and say, say it again and again and again. And it will come, but I think it's one of those things. It's like you have to repeat yourself like so
yes,
many times, and not feel like it. Partly it's like it's not because you're not doing a great job. It's just like communication is
yes,
hard, right?
it
So
is.
it's
And
like,
also,
yeah,
I feel like it needs to be varied. So you can't
yeah,
just send out the same sort of thing every time. So I'm currently experimenting with more blog posts around communities of practice and how to create successful ones internally, and then maybe a newsletter, and then maybe just a shout out on Slack, and just so that people see the type of stuff I do, as well as like I'll have one-to-ones with stakeholders of mine to double check, can we have a catch up? What are we working on? How can I help? Oh, you're doing this, did you know I could do that? That sort of spreading the word in multiple ways, because also everyone consumes communication differently. Like, I know that when I was at uni, I struggled so much with those big, like, conference talks because I wasn't used to audible, like hearing stuff in a meeting. Like, I
Yeah,
have to have, I'm from that generation that has the subtitles on everything because I want to read it. And so I struggle with like verbal stuff in meetings a lot of the time. I need to then read it, and then maybe I need to rewatch it and then read it again to really process it, and then I'll give your ideas and feedback. Um,
yeah,
and I know that everyone's very different there. And then if you throw in neurodiversity and how people
yeah,
communicate as well, it becomes really complex. So nowadays I try not to be put off by having to repeat myself. I try and make it more fun for myself and trying out different things, and hopefully it somehow sticks. And if nothing else, I've got a link I can share with someone if they go, "Oh, what is this?" I'm like, "Oh, well, actually, I wrote about it here. If you want to talk about it, let me know."
it's true, right? Do you have like any internal, like, what would you call it? An internal wiki or internal
Mm,
email list that you've built up or that you have access to that maybe people can opt in, or like a homepage, I guess,
yes.
or a website internal. What, my brain's gone.
Like an intranet type thing, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds
Yeah.
so like
Old school.
intranet. Yeah, but what's the modern name for it? I don't know, but is that a thing? Or is
Yeah,
it
I mean,
Slack
we've got.
now? I don't know. Is
Yeah,
Slack like,
well, this is the problem. It's quite
yeah.
fragmented, I would say. Whereas, us tech teams used Slack quite a lot. Um, Everyone else uses Teams, or and but what has been reasonably nice is that I can create like a Teams channel for community of practice leads, for example. That way I can share new resources I've created with them or insights, and that can link to a SharePoint site. So I'm writing internally on SharePoint. I've built myself a bit of a website, and I can basically do what I want on it to an extent. Obviously, is different. People wouldn't be. Yeah, generally it's open. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't have to be private or anything like that for the stuff that I do. And then that's a good way that I can share some links. It's also very easy then to have interested parties in your team's channel and send meeting invites or office hours or something like that. So while I'm not the biggest fan of that tool, it's a tool I'm trying to use efficiently and well, to get the message across, and that way it provides instant messaging, some visibility of who's interested, who's in these like sessions, a way to create meetings, a way to blog, a way to write a newsletter now too, and that's sort of a good way I found, rather than managing loads of newsletter type mailing lists.
Yeah.
Because I've tried mailing lists in the past, but in turn, they're just quite hard in Outlook. I mean, maybe I'm too old, I don't know, but it's just quite hard in Outlook.
Yeah, I guess like with mailing lists, I think of like email mailing lists, like marketing type. We use Mailchimp, but there's a whole
Yeah,
bunch of tools, but that's more for like external. Well, it
yeah,
could be internal, I guess. Um, it's definitely interesting. I think we're going to have to say the AI word.
mm,
But as you were talking about that, I was thinking like some of the stuff that I've been doing personally and researching personally, and even like working towards MOT. Um, we've not done a lot of AI actually, but everything we're building is working towards being able to work with AI. I think,
okay,
and I think with community type stuff or anything with knowledge, there's something interesting in the fact that AI needs the knowledge, so it's almost
mm,
up to us to create that knowledge.
yes,
So traditionally, or I guess in the tech world, often people say, "Oh, isn't it great that like the whole internet has got so much knowledge, or Reddit it's got so much knowledge, and they've done big deals around that. But ethically, it's
Yes.
very, very questionable.
That's very
So like,
biased as well.
it's just like, it's like, oh yes, isn't this helpful? But a lot of the data is like, yeah, just so questionable where it comes from. But I think there's I guess alignment in the fact that every organization needs knowledge, and it's almost the challenge becomes, right, we have to extract the knowledge somehow and put it somewhere so that it's then surfaceable on demand,
Yeah.
like an AI buddy kind of thing. So it's like, yes, people might not read that newsletter you put out or that blog post you put out, because maybe they've, who knows what they've got going on at that point in
Yes.
time. They might have deadlines, or they might be in meetings. They just don't have the headspace to
Yeah.
consume it. But the idea of having that knowledge and then AI tapping into that, I think is super interesting. So it's like your on-demand AI buddy, but feeding
Yeah.
on knowledge that has been carefully curated.
Yeah.
And Reddit does it with foreign posts, and I think the world, generally speaking, focuses too much on foreign type posts, but actually knowledge comes in many formats, right? AI can consume it in many formats. This
Yes.
conversation is something that can be fed into it at some point, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I think, perhaps, if I was in your role, it's like the frustration of people not listening, but knowing that you're still creating value, so that at some point people, you might be able to feed all your work into AI, could be super powerful. And I just think, generally speaking, this idea of knowledge and retaining that knowledge somehow is important.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Like I'm conflicted about it a little bit. I've played with certain elements of like I have a hobby newsletter about something completely unrelated to anything, and recently I've been posting on there for about over a year, and then I decided, right, what would AI now do if I say, look at this voice and style, and now write me a post about this topic. And it was really interesting to see it kind of analyze my writing style to then like try and write something in my voice. Now, it wasn't quite right. I mean, this was a few months ago, so it gets better all the time. And I do struggle with the idea of using it for creative tasks, because I feel like that's what makes us human. And I know that's maybe a boring argument because you see that all the time online, but a lot of my friends create art, they create comic books. So I feel quite like passionate about that. So like with writing, it's an interesting one because I like writing. So I write in my spare time. But some things at work, I can use AI to pull together different documents to help me create an outline, so I'm not starting from scratch. You just have to make sure, like a good tester, you check your sources and make sure something wasn't changed.
Yeah.
That still happens, and
Yeah.
that is something that is still going to happen, because in general it does pattern matching of
Yeah.
it doesn't really understand what was said. It knows that this word generally goes with that word, or in this document that word went with this word. So that's something to like really look out for. And I sometimes don't see that happen. People just go, oh yeah, I created this thing, there you go, done my thing,
Yeah.
isn't it cool, it was
Yeah.
so fast. So yeah, I'm a bit conflicted, but what is quite powerful is some of those integrations it could do to get you knowledge from all the different areas. So as mentioned earlier, a lot of our communication is fragmented. How cool would it be if I have my AI buddy and it looks everywhere for relevant information around a certain topic, especially if we don't know what's where and how to move it into a central location. It can really speed
Yeah.
up that analysis, or writing scripts to analyze something. I have a colleague that is like all in with AI and like really positive, also critical, but is like testing it to its limits, building dashboards and all cool things, and gave me a challenge with another colleague. Oh, we had this question. Why don't you try and find out? And it meant to use an IDE to connect to another system, to write a script to extract that data and then have that knowledge. And actually that was really fun. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't, as an admin of that tool, I would have just had to go in and count and count and count. But actually I could just get this to write a script, even though I don't code, my colleague doesn't code. And it was done in like 2 hours pairing because we didn't know what we were doing. And we had the information, and now we can use that to measure stuff. So that's been really powerful, that I didn't have to ask someone with coding experience to do that for me. I could get that information when I have that question. Yeah, it's tricky. Like, I like what it can bring me and what it can help me do. Even if I don't know how to do something, I can ask it and say, how do I write a script for this? Is this even possible? Do you have access to that? How would you get access to that? Which is scary, which is almost like a security test. But, it helps you create like GitHub tokens, and that's how you can access this thing, and just make sure you tick these boxes. Like, oh, great. Yeah. Sorry, it was a lot of rambling.
No, I mean, like, even my son was looking into like traveling and requirements and education in a different country, and he was like, oh, I was talking to a friend about it and they said this, and then they put me in touch with this person. And I was like, have you tried asking ChatGPT? He said, no, I haven't. That's a good point. And this, like, it will give him all the answers, but it might help point him in the right direction, or interpret what's out there in different ways. So not quite the same example, but it's like I'm excited for it, but at the same time, I'm not actually doing a lot with it. We use Notebook LM quite a lot at MOT at the moment. So we create a lot of talks, a lot of courses, a lot of articles. We have a lot of things tagged by topic and stuff like that, and it's like it's overwhelming content to the extent where there's a lot in there, but it's hard to consume, or it's hard to find the nuggets. So it's like we're now using things like Notebook LM to help us surface the good ideas, and we might cut some bits from other things we've done in the past, or quote them, or turn the ideas into mini articles so that people can just have a like micro article to dive straight to the point rather than have to listen to a 30-minute talk. So from that perspective, Notebook LM has been quite good, just to point us to interesting ideas that we then judge whether we think it's worth writing about. So I've been exploring that, and it's been fun. I think I quite enjoy it, and a lot of the quality insights we do at MOT now are kind of assisted with that kind of idea. Even like from we host TWIC, This Week in Quality, so every Friday we just hang out together, and quite often there can be like little insights just shared in like a 2 or 3 minute part of the podcast, and it's like something we're like, that's a good idea, we should share that. And then we'll stick the transcript into Notebook LM and just see what it comes up with to help us.
That's really nice.
Write out ideas, and then we end up crediting the person as well from it. It's not like we're trying to steal ideas. It's like, no, we're writing the experiences that people have already shared. But most people won't take the time to actually listen or realize that it's a good idea. Even if they do listen, it's like, it's like we're studying the community, we're researching the community, and we're seeing things, and then we're finding ways to make ideas more visible. Like you said, make it more visible, right? That's probably a big part of our roles. But yeah, what just to kind of wrap up a bit, what would you say, like from a quality perspective, moving between roles? Any advice? I mean, I think you've done quite well to like stay, for example, with League in General, do all these different types of roles, and um, I know you took some breaks in between, and you've gone back, and uh, maybe that's like an angle for people at the moment where they might lose their roles, but they might still be able to go back, especially in bigger organizations, under a different banner,
Yeah.
and perhaps not to give up so easily. And I kind of feel like, perhaps you didn't give up so easily, or you kept looking for opportunities to go back and see it as a place where you could still grow. Any thoughts? Any parting thoughts on that?
Yeah, a couple. So one was, obviously I'd been involved there when I had I'm going to call it like a sabbatical, but it wasn't. It wasn't. I'd left, but it kind of feels like a sabbatical now because I've come back. But I left a more senior role. I was kind of a PO of what was going to become a platform. And to manage two teams. So I left and then came back as kind of a lead tester in a platform team. So a bit different. But the team I was managing, I was then in testing again. And I think there's a couple of things there. I spoke with a friend about this. Like, don't think that's a failure if you've been more senior and you go back a step in seniority. It does you go for it if you have an opportunity and you're excited by it. I'd say go for it, try it out. But if you feel like that wasn't quite right, there's no failure in that. You still will have learned lots, and sometimes the most important thing is learning what maybe we don't enjoy as much, or doesn't excite us when we wake up in the morning. So that's a big learning, and I really struggled with that because I've never had that before. So going back to something familiar was really nice, and especially I always left on good terms. It wasn't like a bad reason I'd left. There's other companies that I won't name that I won't go back to for different reasons, but there's a lovely community and people take the time to get to know you and collaborate. So that's why also I went back and, in a sense, use your network. There might be types of roles that interest you, but you're not quite sure. So maybe reach out to someone and talk to them about it. So I talked to a couple of people about DevRel type roles, just getting an idea what that might look like, what was the transition like. So maybe they came from often people come from more of a developer hands-on background, but, there are many tasks involved that don't mean you have to code or build something, because it might just be about helping people use a platform. So, I think there's an element there around like, don't be afraid of like failure and stepping back in seniority. An opportunity can always turn into something else. So like I have interviewed at much even lower roles, I've been a senior for a very long time or a lead for a very long time, but I have interviewed for just QA analyst roles, but maybe more specialized in accessibility, because I wanted to, or I like the idea of building up my skills in that area. I've got very general skills, but to be more focused on it. And that can lead to good opportunities and networking, even if you don't get the role. So I always say, like, read job descriptions on a regular basis, reach out to people, talk to them. You're not, it isn't cheating on your company if you talk about other potential roles in the future. It also can help you build your personal development plan. So those sorts of activities I've always done in the background: network, talk to people, see what they're up to, see what they would be looking for in a senior engineer or quality engineer in the future. And then they might think of you in your conversation. So I think there's a lot of power in that, like, human element still, as much as AI is looking at our CVs and sorting it. But if you've spoken to someone, you can send them their CV directly, maybe. But it is very hard right now. And I know financially it's also very tricky to take a step back if, you've lost a senior role and then going for a more junior one or mid-level one can be really, really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a strange world out there at the moment. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it was like my wider network that helped me get back into a
Yeah.
like job. Don't give up, I guess. A lot of companies aren't replying at the
Yeah.
moment. I see that everywhere, but I am still subscribed to a lot of job ads, and there are some interesting things happening. Interestingly, all the AI focused ones have gone away.
Interesting.
I had a lot of ones with AI in the name in 2023, but
Okay.
2024, and it seems to be less AI in the name. I think people are no longer building AI teams. They're just building teams with, some people might be using AI in their delivery lifecycle, or Copilot in your IDE, or whichever you might want to use. So Gemini if you're Google, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, it becomes part of your skill set, right? It's like, I don't think anyone will be able to escape AI in the future. We'll just naturally
No.
be using these tools. And
Yes.
maybe from a company's perspective, if you stick AI in the job title, then it almost demands a increase in salary as well. And maybe they don't want
Maybe.
that either. Who knows? I don't know.
Yes.
I think of that as well. It's just like, it's inflation of salaries sometimes
Mm.
unnecessarily. And we all probably just need a bit of time to get up to speed with all the AI stuff, right? It's unrealistic
Yes.
to expect us to know it when it's only just really come about, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's useful. And, I've seen a few people get jobs through their network.
Yeah.
And I think increasingly that's important, right? It's not, what you know, it's who you know sometimes. So
Yes. And as
always,
biased as that can sound, but at the same time, it's a human connection, isn't it? And I think that's going to become more and more important. I keep joking with people that products that are not made with AI, like as in, let's say a comic book, it will have like a sticker saying human made, a bit like the organic label on food. I reckon that might become a thing later on this year.
also, I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, I don't know. It's a balance. I often think of the word balance. It's like,
Mm,
again, I'm not really against AI, but it's the balance. It's not in balance, right? And
yes.
I think we have to get that balance back. So I hope we can inject more humanity into everything we're doing, because yeah, I'm just not inspired by a lot of stuff at the moment. And I think a lot of that is probably AI. Everybody just like, when you can get AI just to design you something, or to, with a prompt, you can have a website designed, but it's got no soul. It's got no character. It's got no,
It's
you
that
know,
creativity, isn't it? Just quickly, that just reminded me of FF Conf did a lot around like 90s websites. And there's like a specific talk, I can't remember which one, I can send you the link in a minute. And it just really made me want to build like almost a garish website, with the animated GIFs and like just personality. Everything else is just flat and white or dark, depending on what your theme is. And, TikTok, Instagram, they all look the same on a phone if you open it up.
yeah.
But like, what about these like year oldie websites that are, have some personality back, and doing that rather than like getting AI to just create the next modern, plain, boring thing.
It's true though, and sometimes I've been on Facebook and I get confused whether I'm on Facebook or LinkedIn. I like look
Yes.
away for a second and say, "What app I on today?" And it literally looks all the same.
Yeah.
It's true, and it's why I love also just like the MOT stuff we do, the design stuff. Like all our design is still done by the same designer we've had for uh,
Mm.
since the beginning, to be honest, or since very early on. Um,
Yeah, nice.
and we're just finding human ways to, you know, keep building upon it. So he gives us assets now. So we've built up like a whole pool of assets that we just keep reusing in different ways, and that inspires us, and that's creativity. And just by creating a graphic ourselves from assets we already have, it's like we get new ideas on how to express things. Plus, it just brings us a lot of joy in the team. We're like
Yeah,
giggling
nice.
at the things we create, which I think gets lost in lots of people's
Laughing
work.
together is one of the best things for team building, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Creating co-creation, just like if you can make something together, have a laugh. I think that's so good for the soul.
Yeah,
Um,
really powerful.
but yeah. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thanks
It's
for
been a
having me.
pleasure having you, and I'll see you in the multiverse.
Yes, I'll see you at the MoTaverse. Bye.
Bye.